Hello, everyone, and we're live, I believe. Uh,
Hey, hey.
how we are M1X and other products. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see what we're excited about. I've got here with me Kevin Ross and Patrick Rambles again for another Geek Out. So hopefully you'll enjoy this one. Guys, give a little intro for people who might not know who you are, and we'll crack on.
I'm just going to say good morning. I'm going to take it from Tim Cook. I'm going to take that away. He doesn't need that thunder. He's
Morning,
already had to say,
California. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, I think the interesting thing is, of course, I review tech. You and I connected on Clubhouse. Then we got connected with Patrick, and then there was the Tube Life podcast. So, I think we are very much aligned in a lot of the tech that we review. It seems like. So I'm not sure how much introduction that we need since probably people are coming from my video or your video.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah, yeah.
we're
People should know
friends.
who we are.
We're
Yes,
friends.
yes. We're
That's
friends.
what you
We're
need to
Yes,
know.
we're
geeks.
nerds and we're friends.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm excited for the M1X MacBook Pro, mainly because I need a new laptop, um, and I'm hoping that it doesn't cost me as much as my last one did to to perform the same way. So are you guys getting one? What about you in the chat as well? Let me know. Are you buying a MacBook, or are you just interested in the in
Well,
kind of window
here,
shopping?
yeah. Here's the question too: is what I think will really be. I think a lot of people are either set on the 14 or 16 inch. Now, I didn't really run an official poll on the channel, but I'm wondering. It seems like the 16 is edging out as far as popularity is concerned.
Yeah.
However, I'm wondering from a price point, if for some reason these 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, I know some people want them to be cheaper. However, I think they are just going to be in line with what they currently are as far as price is concerned.
Mm.
So then the question is, how much do you need that portability? And if the Mac Mini is updated with the M1X or whatever they're going to call it,
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
I think that's going to like really throw some people off when it comes
If
to
you
price, I think.
Yeah, yeah. How about you, Patrick? Or are you looking at
Um,
16-inch, 14
I'm
inch?
looking at, yeah, because I can't really hear you guys very well. For some reason, it's breaking up a little bit. I don't know if
Oh,
it's
Really?
just
okay.
me,
We'll do
but
sign language.
I did hear the
For,
question whether we're upgrading, right?
yeah,
Yes, I am.
14 or
Because
16, basically.
right, so yeah, because I'm one of those people that's still on the Intel MacBook 16-inch, and we were just chatting about it earlier a little bit. That we both, Alex and I, both got basically the specced out version, the 16
Yeah.
inch, and it was supposed to be this beast that would go for years,
Still
and
hurts.
this sitting machine. But in the end, I don't know if it's Apple throttling. I mean, that's one conspiracy theory, but pretty much as soon as the M1 landed, this one stopped being
It-
such a beast.
yeah. Beach balls everywhere. Yeah.
Beach balls everywhere. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I've been using the M1 Mini for a bit, and that has actually been very good. I mean, it's not even really specced out, but it's great.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to switch to this one too, and definitely going for the 14-inch one to have a bit of a I find the 16-inch one, I don't really use the screen. If I do use it, it's with an external monitor anyway, and on the go, I don't
Mm.
really edit that much. If I really have to do a quick edit, 14 inches is just fine. And then
Yeah.
for everything else, it's just nice and compact.
Yeah, same here. I just did a video yesterday about that point. When you get to the size, if you're getting the same spec, it's gonna be really people who don't hook it up to an external monitor, and that means they can maybe enjoy the bigger monitor. But I'm with you. My laptop is, I'd say, 80%, if not longer, of the time closed, and just I'm just using my external monitor. But so the 14 inches is probably what we're gonna go with this time. And even if I take it away to work on the road, yeah, the 16 inch is just massive, right? And
Yeah.
it feels unnatural carrying a laptop this big, in 2021.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the thing I really ask people about that is that, yes, the screen is beautiful. And Mark Sequence and I were kind of trading back and forth on Twitter. He's like, yeah, but don't you want that screen? And you really do have to kind of look at your workflow. If you're someone that is on the road or needs to be light and portable, I mean, that extra pound of weight you like give or take, that's usually what it is. Can make a difference when you've got camera gear or other gear with you, and
Yeah.
really just the footprint of the 16-inch. So
Yeah.
I think, I know it's probably going to be stunning, it's going to be beautiful, but I just wonder if it's just too big for some people to kind of move around. Although, what about like when you dock it, so Patrick and Alex, like, do you ever feel like that's like wasted
Mm.
technology or wasted feature
That,
because you're mostly
yeah.
docking it?
Imagine
Yeah,
getting a mini LED display, right? And not ever seeing it. It's
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
it's definitely wasting something there.
Yeah, I mean, with the 16-inch, it was because that was just the most powerful laptop, right? It's the one you
Exactly.
needed. You wanted to have that workhorse. But if the rumors are correct, we have equally powerful machines, just different sizes. And in that case, I will definitely go for the smaller one. Before the 16-inch, I was always using 13-inch MacBook Pros because I do enjoy the portability. I don't often use it as a laptop, and if I do, I enjoy it to be a bit smaller. And if I'm here in my office, I will just plug it in. But I just saw a question by Aaron um, asking if I run into any issues with the battery life. And it's a good question because the battery life is really terrible on mine. But I don't remember it ever being really good either, even when it was new. So I don't really know how much of this is due to the being plugged in all the time, and how much is actually because it's you know
Yeah,
just not
our
good.
video editing takes a lot on the battery, right? But what I've noticed recently, I included that in my latest video actually. The battery doesn't charge anymore. Sometimes you look at it and it says, it's like halfway through, and it says the battery's not charging. That's a bad sign. I remember older MacBook Pros, when you get to that point, you need to replace the battery. And it used to be, a couple of clicks at the bottom, right? You remove the battery, buy a new one. But now you can't, right? You have to, I don't know, take it to Apple if you want to replace the battery. I don't even know if it's possible.
It is possible, but I think I can't remember what the cost is.
Hmm.
However, I mean, I'm
Could
not
be
sure how many
$100 or
cycles
something.
you've run it through. So I think that's another thing too, is like, is the battery health just taking a massive hit because of
Hmm.
the way that you're using it? Because there's this whole thing of folks out there, there's communities out there on how to preserve battery, as far as like how far you charge it up and then how far you
Hmm.
let it, discharge, and how many cycles
Yeah.
it runs through. So I mean, Apple had this whole like program or like this forum where it said like, this is how you're going to get the most use out of your battery, most longevity.
Hmm.
And but I think that with battery tech changing a little bit, I think that is also changing. So I mean, I have a MacBook Pro that won't, like, I have to keep it plugged in. It's ridiculous. And I'm
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
doing anything with it.
Yeah. And there's heat as well, right? Heat is not good for batteries. And
No.
this MacBook, the Intel MacBook Pro, as soon as you start doing anything that's not just browsing, the vents go and the heat, it gets over 100 very easily,
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. Yeah. So it's crazy,
I
how
mean, the
hot it
vent on
gets.
the 16-inch one is barely ever off, to be honest. It's just, as soon as I
Yeah.
open it up and I start my browser, it starts, taking
That's,
off. It's very annoying. But especially, I mean, not everybody, of course, edits videos and stuff, and we're always on about video editing. But it's a good example because you're trying to have a soundproofed room, and you want to have the best microphone, and then you have this rocket ship right next to you, making your
Mhm.
recordings sound terrible.
yeah. I
Yeah.
saw someone on Twitter saying that if you call out Siri, it will stop the vent for a few seconds, so you can do whatever you want to do.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's funny. That's
that's
funny.
not a feasible workaround, right?
Well, and the thing is I think that what Apple Silicon is doing with that battery, so I can tell you, like, I've cut video on the M1 MacBook Air, and it's just interesting. Like, it gets warm, and there's no fan in that, obviously, but the fact that I'm cutting that video, the battery is holding up, like, I don't have to keep it in a charger, like, it'll perform as it would if it's plugged in, versus some of the Microsoft offerings, or I should say Microsoft, but the x86 architecture. Because I saw that Lee, in the comment section, he had made something about the crapple, and versus like just investing in something else. And I mean, Pat Gelsinger, the Intel CEO, is definitely. I mean, their marketing campaigns are awful right now as far as like what they're doing, but I mean, he truly wants to bring like more competition. They've either been sitting on their hands or they just haven't really been very transparent about what they're doing behind closed doors, which I understand R&D you have to be. But we do need that competition, and I do think that Intel is going to be bringing out some very compelling competition, but we have to remember Apple is building this like hardware and the software together. So that's the difference.
That's going to be optimized.
Yeah. And Intel said that they were going to open up development. Just so like I in my video, Blender, with Apple putting some of that in their development fund, Intel is going to be trying to do the same thing. So you're going to watch these giants just go at it and see what happens to the development community. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And I forgot the name of the technology, right? But yeah, go on, Patrick.
Do we dare to touch the issue of the notch? I've been sitting on that one. I just watched a couple of videos
about it.
A couple of videos, last minute videos by iUpdates, Iran, of course, talking about it. Is it a big deal to you guys?
I'll go first because I'll keep it short. I don't give a crap, to be honest. It's
and there you have it.
Yeah, and there you have it. It's gonna be covered by the menu of the bar, most likely. Most of it anyway should be out of your way, and you're gonna get a better camera as a result. So I think and a bigger display itself, right? It's gonna be, the bezel's gonna be really thin if that's true. I like it. I don't mind it. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, when we're looking at sort of the mock-up, and so when we look at these rough illustrations, is the notch, are we looking at like a finished notch, or is this a notch that is contained with like under the glass? And if you know anything about camera sensors and camera, like that kind of technology, yes, you need space to put those into. So if you're working 16:9 aspect ratio, is it even going to hit the notch? Like when you're viewing and working in it anyway, but is the glass just going to cover it up? And like if you pulled the glass off, yeah, maybe that's what that's going to look like. But I think that the finished renders, that'll be interesting to see if that's what it's actually going to look like, or is that just an illustration that is just underneath the glass and we're kind of blowing it out of proportion? And I'm not trying to be an Apple apologist here.
Yeah, no, it's a popular or unpopular or infamous subject, right? To talk about notch, given about how they've done it on the iPhone. So yeah, it was the chin on the Apple Mac, on the kind of, what's it called, the mini, whatever it's called, right? That screen that's got a massive chin at the bottom. They could have removed that, and they decided not to. So yeah, it's one of those things as well that Apple always are going to try and keep it recognizable, and I can see the marketing value in doing that. But yeah, as long as it's out of the way and doesn't become a distraction, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that marketing thing? Because people said that about the iPhone too, about the iPhone 13. Like they could have removed the notch or put everything behind the glass or whatever, but they did. That it's a theory that Apple did it on purpose because they want to have this 13 to be super distinguishable, so that the real Apple fanboys will have that this is the 13 and not the 12.
And
so
it's
that
the latest one, not the 2 years old.
Trademark almost.
Yeah. It's to know that you've got the M1X, not the Intel or the M1, right?
Yeah,
that's a theory.
I think I'm probably just one of those, people that are easy to please. I had this whole thing with the iPad Mini and the Jelly Scroll. I don't care, honestly. I don't. I did a video on it, and it's there. It's noticeable. I just don't care. It's not a big deal. And I guess I feel the same way about the notch. It's gonna be there most likely, and whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. And it was the blooming issue as well with the iPad, right? There's always a little something that we got to pick up on, I think. And again, that's a non-issue. It's there, but does it actually get in the way of your user experience? Very, very rarely, I think there'll be a use case where you're in a dark room doing some work, and that will get in the way.
And that's a perfect example.
I think it's the same with
that's a perfect example. Is like, and I think you can be aligned with both. I think when you look at sort of the aesthetics, the design, some folks are like, whoa, if Apple does that, I mean, because everybody talks about the design of the MacBook Pro, just, I mean, how gorgeous it is, and like the curves and like the trackpad and just sort of the feel, the fit and finish of it. And so I think people obviously that are really into design would think, okay, that is a leap backward versus as you're saying, and of course Patrick too, it's like, but what about the function of it? Is it getting in my way? Is that
Mm.
causing me like any issues? Not to mention if you're going to keep it in clamshell mode most of the time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
Um,
other thing. Yeah, but to be honest, I think but this is what I think is so amazing about Apple. Maybe not in a good way, but it's amazing nonetheless because they give us 120 hertz refresh rate on the phones, and we're like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is so great, right? And we all know that they're probably the last one to the party. Same with the new webcam, it's 1080p, and everybody's going
right.
nuts. Wow, 1080p, no longer 720. I mean,
That's
it's great that we now have a better potato as a camera, but it's still a potato. I mean,
still a
there's
potato.
so
It's
many,
not 4K,
why
right?
not a
Yeah.
4K camera? Why is Apple always, lagging behind in those things, and then we're applauding them for it when they actually do catch up somewhat?
Yeah.
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 That's
Well,
Definitely
and
that's
some kind of the theory of sandbagging a little bit, right? They can do it, but why do it, right? If we're gonna buy it anyway, they may as well hold it off. So I can
yeah.
see it's annoying as as a consumer. It's bloody annoying, right? That we know they can do it and they're just holding back on it. But when you look at the competition, yeah, I can see why they don't jump too much ahead. I think that the old Apple probably would have gone, yeah, let's give people what they like, right? And what would make the experience really great. Now I
Yeah.
think it's more about keep the profit, right? Keep the machine turning every year cycle, and like, yeah, as a business, I can see how that works, but as a consumer, it's, yeah, irritating.
Well, and I don't
yeah.
know who's rocking a 13 Pro or Pro Max in the community right now on this, but I will say that it does really reinforce the idea of like the headlines of, is Apple innovative or is it, iterative as far as the updates are concerned? And 120 hertz being available on Android devices since the 90s, pretty much. I mean, when you talk about the tech, like it feels like it's been around forever. But really more mainstream in the last several years. However, what I would ask you, because I have the 13 Pro, in Apple's experience, not just to the eyes, not just to the function
Mm,
of it, but to the battery life. And
yeah.
those are the questions that I would ask. Do you feel like you need to be next to a charger anymore with the iPhone and the 13 Pro at 120 hertz? Because I know I used to always joke with my friends because I was rocking Android and everybody's like, you got a charger? I need to plug in. I need like, and this was obviously not 120 hertz. This was just
Yeah,
Apple's batteries were terrible like that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Couldn't manage it.
Real life example, right? The other day, it was kind of a Friday night as well, so I forgot to charge my phone on a Saturday. My Saturdays are always busy. I'm out, so I'm constantly using my 4G network. There's no 5G here. But yeah, I'm taking photos, taking videos, using navigation, and I forgot to charge it. And it took me all the way till about 4 or 5 p.m. the next day, where I thought, yeah, now I probably need to charge. So no longer, I don't think, yeah, that's gone away. I can see, if I'm really testing and I was doing some battery tests, yeah, you can completely drain it. But I think it's no longer an issue. I'm not sure the 13 mini now, but I heard that's improved as well, right?
Somewhat.
Did you get the mini, Patrick? I thought you did.
No, I didn't. I had a mini last time. There
I
was a
have
whole
the
thing.
12. I didn't get the 13 though.
Yeah. No, I did have a mini and I loved it. I really did. It was just really practical, and it was novel to me because I've been doing the big flagships forever. Even before Apple, I had this long thing of Samsung phones, all of the big ones. And then this mini came out, and I really liked the novelty of it. But the battery just kills me. I mean, of the 12, when you're at home, which we all were, you plug it in everywhere and you constantly have it charging, fine. But then as soon as you leave the house for a couple of hours, it's just dead. And
Yeah,
that's just
yeah,
not acceptable. So switch back to the Pro, also because the cameras were actually quite interesting this year. I don't like how heavy it is. It's huge to stick in your pocket, but it's a trade-off because this one will actually last me the entire day. I don't have to worry about it, dying on me halfway through. And I guess that's better now that we're out and about again.
What did you say about your pocket?
Oh no.
Excuse me?
This is still
Never mind.
PG-13, right?
I can't hear you guys.
Maybe
that's
it's probably good you can't.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
There's something about your pocket.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, so I would say, and I was trying to scroll through the chat here. I know that we've got a little excitement for the Mac Mini, and I'm just as excited too, because I'm not sure if that is something that I will personally pick up just to compare to the M1 Mac Mini. I am curious though about the 14-inch MacBook Pro personally. It's just for my workflow, I would really hate to keep it in a clamshell mode all the time, especially if, because I love looking at the iPad Pro screen. I mean, the M1, and yeah, we got ripped off on this. I mean, it's great for Apple events. I love streaming the events on the iPad Pro. It's perfect,
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I think that would be hard. I wonder what that's going to be, and I think maybe that will push people over to the 16-inch because they'll be like, yeah, this thing is just so gorgeous. I can't close it. Like I need, I want to look at this.
Yeah, I guess the weight would come into play as well, right? If it's light enough and it doesn't become a pain to carry, then why not, right? But
right,
yeah, I don't know if it's always closed. I'd say 14 is fine. I mean, one of the most obvious cost saving options is obviously going to be storage, right? And I've heard that we're talking 8 terabytes now on the internal SSDs. Is going to be an option.
I heard 4.
Would
8?
you? Yeah,
Jeez.
I heard 8 is a possible, and I'm thinking, would you ever get that much on a single internal storage?
Never.
No,
not at that cost.
No, and like you said, there's plenty of great external storage, and I like using it between my devices anyway. So I actually prefer storing my stuff on external SSDs, especially as long as I'm working on it.
We've been told that we're not excited enough.
Okay,
I'm excited.
Here's the thing. I'm standing. See, look at this. See, I'm not sitting down. I'm ready, man. I was like, I usually go on a morning run and like get myself, get my head clear, and I'm like, I've got so much energy. I don't know if that's a good idea because I am going to be exhausted probably by the end of the day. Especially, so here's the thing. 2 things. One, I know that there has been this whole idea that the 14-inch and the 16-inch will be equivalent as far as like how many GPU cores, if that's the case. If it's 16, if it's 32, will the 14 be able to house something like that? Because heat dissipate, even if it's the SoC. I know that they've talked about sort of the thermals and the headroom in the 14-inch and making sure that they do have those fans positioned in a way that if they ever do spin up, that it will dissipate that heat. We are looking at more like watt or more power per watt. So in those exciting graphs that Apple has with no numbers really, it's just like 1500x or whatever, and that's it.
Yes. Yeah.
So like that's the question is, I've asked the community, would that push you over to another Mac if the 14-inch comes in, let's say $1799, but let's say that they kick us and say, yeah, but we're going to start that at 8 gigs of RAM. I mean, people are going to just go bonkers if that happens.
Yeah, I can see it happening as well. Yeah, 'cause that's what they've done with the recent launches, right? So yeah.
Well, they have to differentiate. Like the price and the whole thing, like how do you differentiate the price?
Yeah.
Like it's a bigger screen. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I think wasn't it the storage that they have more storage options in the larger model? So maybe it ends at 4 terabytes, only 4 on the 14, and then it continues on the larger model. It could be something.
That could be it, right? Yeah.
But I'm actually
Could they
quite
say
pleased about this, because I would hate having to buy the 16 again, the larger model,
We've learned that
just
lesson, right?
because. Sorry.
We've learned that lesson with the iPad, right?
Yeah,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's a different story because that just
Mm.
literally didn't live up to its expectations because of the software. But we know that when this MacBook has amazing hardware, you will be able to use it.
Yeah.
But I would hate having to have a bigger one just because it's more powerful. So if it's the same on the 14 as it is on the larger one, I actually prefer the smaller one. I think that's great.
You guys have some like teenage inside
Having
joke
a
thing
hard
going on
time.
here. Yeah, he is. He is. And apparently moonlighting as a fitness instructor. Sorry. I'm
No,
trying to be
I keep
active
forgetting we're
in the
not on
chat.
Telegram all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, but Mike, I think is saying the same thing here in the comments. Yeah, could mini LED be the differentiator that you get on the 16-inch? I think that's probably what he meant by the question, but
Yeah. Like
I don't see
that's
Apple doing a different display on them, but that could be something, right?
well from a manufacturing like a logistical standpoint there, I would agree with you. Like I think that they have to be careful
Mm.
because for whatever reason, the machining on the 11 versus the 12.9 on the iPad Pro, they were able to figure that out. But I just think that that's the issue is that they're going to continue to splinter and fracture if they start like throwing out all of these additional names. Like, is it going to be the MacBook Pro? Is it just going to be like the M1X? Is it going to be the M1 Pro? I mean, I do think Apple needs to pare down a little bit, but
Yeah.
I just, like I said, logistically, it's gonna be hard because like the 13-inch MacBook Pro, when it was Intel, they had it starting at $1799 with the upgraded version. Then you like add a little bit more like memory to it or whatever, and then you're already butting up against the 16-inch MacBook Pro base model, and people were just like, well, I'll just get the 16 because why would I, that's like only a couple $100 more anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that I always consider, 'cause I've been using MacBooks for a long time, so it doesn't occur to me anymore. But if you were using Windows laptops, for the last few years and you never tried a MacBook, would this be something that you would consider, kind of as an easy migration from Windows to Mac, or people don't think like that anymore. They just say, I'm a office worker and therefore all my stuff is on Windows. I'm a creative or photographer or whatever, and therefore my stuff is on Mac. Does that still happen? That division and thought process?
Well, I don't know if you had an answer for it, Patrick. I didn't want to.
I mean, I don't know. The thing is, I've been using. I only switched back to iPhones actually in 2020, after I stopped using them around the iPhone 5. That's a long story, but I switched to Android, and then because I liked the iPad Pro so much, the 2020 iPad Pro, and I liked the apps I could get on it. I didn't like that it didn't communicate well with my Samsung phone, and there were certain apps that I couldn't get on Android, so I decided to switch back to the iPhone as well. But on the MacBook, I actually I lost my train of thought there. What was I saying? Was it? Yes, Windows and Mac. Sorry. So what I was trying to say is that I used to be a Windows person, but I switched to a MacBook before I did switch back to the iPhones. So I've been using it for a long time, and I remember switching, and it was quite difficult for me because I was so used to Windows. But I also remember that Windows, Microsoft Suite, didn't work very well. It was all kind of like it didn't quite work. But that's a long time ago, and now everything works just fine. I'm using Outlook still. I use Word. I use Excel. I'm old school like that. But so if you can use all those things and they work just fine on the MacBook, and they are, in fact, I mean, in many ways, they are superior computers, then why? I don't think there should be anymore a big difference. Perhaps if you're a gamer or you have a very specific use for a Windows machine, but in general, I think they can just work just fine as office computers.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, gaming
Microsoft already
is a
sees
good.
this. No, go ahead, Alex.
No, I was going to say, gaming is an interesting one that, even though we're going to have a lot more power, maybe that the top gaming laptop, right? Um, it's kind of hard to see, yeah, you installing a Windows game, even if it's on a virtual machine inside the Mac and playing games on the Mac. I don't see that happening, but yeah, it's funny how that games don't develop for the OS, for the native Mac OS, right?
Well, I mean,
Not the
that's
sort of games that
yeah,
people are
right.
interested in anyway.
Right. And that's a Vulkan issue, and that Molten VK project that kind of helps bridge that gap
Mm.
between the fact that, well, just the fact that Apple's like, we're metal, which I love that. Also, I
I'm
got to
gonna
get that in
pretend
there.
I understood what you said there,
Yeah,
but
no, it's
so-
it's not.
sounded
I,
way
no,
technical.
no. So I think that's the thing. Like, everybody's like, yeah, but these GPUs, man, these things are just rocking. I'm like,
Mm.
right, they are, but you have to understand like what they're pushing. Like, Apple is metal, and like that's their whole infrastructure as far as their graphics performance. So developers are already making bank on consoles, and the PC gaming x86 architecture is booming. I mean, it is
Mm.
the largest industry. Like, when you talk about entertainment, I've talked about this. And so for them to switch over to like metal, however,
Mm.
so Vulkan is what that is built on for the
Right.
x86 architecture, give or take. Like, let's just keep it simple.
Yeah.
There are developers out there that are trying to bridge that so that these function natively on like Apple Silicon. And that's where the money is going to have to come from. They're going to have, like, these smaller developers even are going to need some kind of subsidy to even want to pay attention to it and get these communities on board. And see, Microsoft's doing the same thing. You talked about the Office,
Mm.
like Windows. Parallels 17 right now runs Windows 11 beautifully on an M1. However, Microsoft also understands that they have their subscription service where you can have access to their entire operating system, and it can be on a Mac, and it's all like their cloud. It's a SaaS, like, so their cloud is running that for you.
Mm.
So they see the writing on the wall as well. Whether it's x86, an SoC, either from Apple, Qualcomm eventually is going to come out with their SoCs for computers. Intel is working on their Alder Lake and their SoCs. Like, all of this stuff is going to get pushed out, and eventually we are going to be well entrenched into kind of like a software as a service for a lot of
Right.
this.
So the owners will be pushed on network performance rather than compute power, right? Which is,
Yeah,
I
so
guess,
that'll
I
be
guess that's good
interesting.
news, right? Yeah, that should be good news.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just don't know how, yeah, how the real gamers would see that, because there's definitely a
Oh, we have
culture
a
as
couple of
well, right?
gamers in the comments actually.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So
here we
let's
go.
see. What do we
So,
what do we got here? I'm
questions.
looking.
Both Mikes actually, Mike and Mike. So if you guys are gamers, and which consoles or PC do you use? Mike is saying I have a Switch. Actually I don't have a Switch. My 6-year-old daughter has a Switch, and I sometimes play with her.
I play FIFA mostly, Call of Duty sometimes on PS5. I don't, yeah. I have had gaming consoles, gaming rigs, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I still had hair then.
Well, I mean, for me, we built an AMD Ryzen a few months back. My son actually uses it primarily, but we all sometimes like jump on that thing. I'll do a little bit of testing between some of the games, and of course, we don't have a PS5. We do have a PS4 and a couple of Xbox consoles in the household. So, I mean, with 3 teenagers, I definitely have people gaming. And that's the one thing that I'm careful about, because I understand that the community is it's kind of like it's almost like surfers, like very purist in the sense of this, like, this is a true gaming experience. This whole thing with Apple and these like small like laptops, these ultra portable laptops, and you're going to game on that thing. I am very, I understand that the gaming community is very sensitive to that, but listen, Apple's going to follow the money. I think I saw in the comment, like, they're good at bleeding our wallets. Well, guess what? They
Yeah.
have shareholders, they have stock price.
Yes.
They're going to get in the gaming space. They are.
Mm.
It's just going to happen.
It's definitely going to happen, isn't it? And they find ways. Yeah. Even when you say, "No, I don't need one," yeah, they kind of find a way of saying, "Yeah, you need one. You're gonna get one anyway." Just saying a quick shout out to Ravisha, and thanks very much. I hope I spelled that right, pronounced that right, Ravisha. Thanks for coming. I saw your comment earlier in my video, and here you are. Thank you very much, and awesome to contribute as well. Don't have to, but that's a very nice gesture of you. Thank you. Would you start gaming if Apple pushed it? I guess that's probably for Patrick, right?
Well, I used to. Well, I sound so old when I start sentences like that. I used to game in university like all the time. I used to play first-person shooters, but then afterwards I kind of stopped doing it simply because I was too busy at work. And now, when my business is kind of, it's sort of sustaining itself in a way, and I have a little bit of more time, but I don't spend it gaming because now there's children and there's YouTube, which obviously takes a lot of time as well. So I don't really have that much time. And if I'm starting to game, I want to get into the game and I'm going to play for a couple of hours. And I know that I just don't have that kind of time, or at least, I have my time filled up. So I just I don't start. I do play these, little puzzler games like a grandpa, but I don't, no console games anymore for me because, I just don't have the time.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Yeah, it's very rare when I find time to play, but yeah, it's a shame actually because it's PS5 is a great console. I remember when I first got it playing Spider-Man and stuff like that, and yeah, awesome graphics in comparison to 1980s when I started gaming on things like Atari, and yeah, it's amazing to have that tech. But yeah, as Patrick's saying, multiple jobs, family,
Yeah.
kind of get it in the way.
Yeah. I still rock an Atari 2600. So I still have my
Oh
original
man, yeah.
one.
That was my
Yeah.
first console. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still have that. And my kids, it's so funny how over the years, like sometimes they'll pull that thing out and they'll start playing some of the games, and they love, like it's so bad because they have to stop playing because of the joystick, and they're like, oh, my hand's killing me. Like, so talk about as far as like developing hands and growing hands. I mean, we're always, kids like holding these controllers, but I'll tell you that joystick on the Atari, that thing
Yeah.
meant business. You had to work that thing.
Playing the Catalan, remember that?
Mhm.
Just like mad.
Yeah. But and quickly, I would say I probably game more from a testing standpoint. So I try to see what, hear what the community is asking as far as like testing out certain games, and I will test out certain games, and sometimes like to blow off a little steam, I will play, but
We
I would
believe you.
say,
Yeah, we totally believe you, Kevin. Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Testing.
It's testing. It's so funny because like my kids will come into the studio
It's
like, what are you
research.
doing? I'm like, I'm working. Like, doesn't
Yeah.
look like you're working. Looks like you're playing Asphalt 9. I know, but I'm
7
working.
hours. I just need to test this thing for 7 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Like I gotta sustain. Like I'm making sure that it's like, we're working the RAM swap thing here, and is it killing the apps, and is it able to sustain? Am I really using that 16
exactly.
gigs of RAM in the M1 iPad Pro? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
But I keep testing it anyway.
Just a quick one. I just saw it earlier in the comments. It's long gone since, but I was actually wondering how you guys feel about this. The touch bar. A lot of people. I think it's one of those polarizing things. Personally, I'll kick off. I hate it. I really do. It's always in the way. I'm always accidentally tapping it. I know Alex likes it. How do you feel about this thing? Because it's probably not going to be on there, right?
I use it a lot. I use it mostly when I'm responding to comments and I've got it open and I don't want to use my bigger screen. It's actually very useful to put emojis on things. Without that, you kind of have to search for it, and I don't know. It's not as intuitive. When I'm video editing, I don't use it at all. I mean, for the app or even internet browsing, kind of you get like search and stuff like that on there. I don't use it for that. But I do use it a lot when I'm, busy typing. I think it's very useful to have those, kind of correcting the words or emoji replacing words with emojis.
Yeah,
niche
you like
use
your
case, I guess, but
emojis.
I like it.
We do know that.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna put one in the comments just because of that. See.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
cool.
and building on what Alex you're saying, and to answer Patrick's question, I'm a fan of muscle memory. I don't care about the touch bar. I it doesn't really serve a purpose in my workflow. Although Alex was the one that was admitted the emojis, so it was the emoji bar. I mean, that was the headline. However, if people are using it in their workflow, I said this in a video like a couple months ago. I'm sad for you if you're losing that functionality. I'm bummed for you, but hopefully, what Apple is going to be bringing to your workflow will kind of make up for that loss. And Alex is just going to have to figure out how to find the emoji button.
I know, or go back to how emojis used to be, like with the colon and parentheses. Just
Oh
use that
yes,
instead.
yes,
I can, yeah, it's fine.
exactly. So
MagSafe is the one that is almost kind
Mm.
of an underrated thing, right? But it's supposed to give you faster charging, and I mean it's no longer an issue if you have it like in a clamshell all the time anyway. But I don't know, how do you guys feel about that one?
About MagSafe?
Yeah, is it meh, or is it, oh, brilliant,
About
awesome that it's
about
back?
the fact that it disconnects easily, like it used to, like the
Yeah, I
fact
don't
that
trip over on the cable. I don't even know where the cable is anymore.
mm. Yeah, I don't. I never liked MagSafe on the MacBook because I never ever accidentally pulled my MacBook off the table, but I knocked the cable off a lot of times, accidentally with my hand or something, and I found it very annoying. Also, I like sometimes to charge my MacBook when it's in my bag, and just have the cable run in there and just stick it in my bag. With the MagSafe, it's probably going to be difficult. You're probably just going to knock it off. So I actually prefer the fixed the cable.
Yeah, I tell you something that I would like to see. You know what they've done with the iMac, or with the Ethernet port on the power brick? That would
Yeah,
be
that's
useful,
cool.
I think.
That's
I think
very
that
cool.
I like that.
So we
well, and
are
I
going to
think
get
this is
ports, right? A lot of
yeah,
ports.
yeah, that's the thing. So I think the question will be, will there be enough people upset by the fact that is MagSafe the only way that we're going to be able to charge if that is a feature? And I do think a lot of people want that back because this is also Apple's way of creating another proprietary charging feature. Or are we going to be able to just plug in USB-C into one of the Thunderbolt ports and still be able to charge? Like that would totally just like roll people over as far as like, oh,
Yeah,
we have to use MagSafe to charge. Like we can't just plug it into a USB-C or the Thunderbolt port to charge. Like that again, I'm thinking, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here a little bit,
Mm.
like things that will upset people aside from the notch.
yeah. I mean, if HDMI is included, that's awesome, I think, because it's one of those things that is not easy to find an adapter, unless it's a big thing that you have to carry around with you. So yeah, that's useful.
Yeah, I think I think HDMI would be a welcome reintroduction. I think there are a lot of people who are like, who's even using HDMI? But I think from a creator's, I don't know. There are often times where I like to do testing with HDMI, and I gotta do that through the dongle, or it's through the mini, which has that functionality, which is
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Um,
Yep.
and if we
I'm
got more
using
room in
my
the chassis, why not?
yeah. I mean, in what I do for work outside of YouTube, I go to meeting rooms that are never the same. One week I'm in a meeting room that's super duper and everything's like wirelessly, magically you can stream your content to that screen. Others are from still, early 2000s, where you've got like VGA cables to deal with, and it's like, so the HDMI port there is almost one of those things that it's in every room you find one. So for me, it would be really useful to have that, and yeah, I can see.
Yeah, the thing is also, I think we're never going to completely get rid of dongle life, even if we have a
Mm,
couple of ports. We were talking about this earlier, I just had to buy a second Thunderbolt hub because I
yeah,
just didn't have enough ports on the Mac Mini. It has 2 ports. I already extended it by 3, and it's still not enough. There's so many devices that we have to connect these days that it's nice to have the ports there, especially the SD card if it's coming. But I'm still going to carry a dongle. There's just no way
yeah,
around it.
it's not enough. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And HDMI 2.1, I see in the chat, it is a godsend for AV people. I mean, doesn't matter if you're using DisplayPort or USB Type-C displays, there is still a need for it. I mean, it is still pretty ubiquitous in the professional space. So
yeah.
I
Do you
don't
get
see anything wrong.
sound as well with 2.1? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
Yeah.
through the mini.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Brilliant.
and you know that's obviously one of those Apple issues as well, or Mac OS issues, as far as like controlling the speakers like through your monitor. And like I know a lot of people have issues with that. And
Mm.
here's the thing, I do not like speakers in a monitor. I know that many of you out there like use it just because that's what you have, and I completely understand it. But when you're trying to hit the volume up and down button and you can't, for some of your displays, not all of them, that certainly can, I know that can be an issue. And again, that really is a Mac OS issue, because I have a ton of people say, well, on my Windows based laptop or my PC, like I can do that no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. He
So
knows that. Yeah.
mhm. So here's another question, and I don't know if this really. Ooh, well, so Thunderbolt hubs definitely for life. I think that that's happening. The thing that we're going to have to dive into, or at least I know that I will, is the performance of Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, USB 4, it's not true Thunderbolt. Like it's not. It really can't be classified true Thunderbolt 4 if like the whole limitation of how it pushes the display or how many displays that it can actually push,
Right. Right.
and
Man,
that gets
I'm
confusing.
glad you're here, Kevin, because I would no idea.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad. I knew there was a reason why we invited you.
Yeah, exactly.
oh, well,
We're just
thanks,
like
guys.
shiny MacBooks. We don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's they look cute. They're adorable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's expensive.
But
Must be good.
yeah, exactly. I'm paying more for it, and it's got that logo that everybody else has, so I'm gonna go with that. But I think that's where a lot of people again get disappointed by the Thunderbolt performance. The fact that we are not getting true Thunderbolt speeds
Mm.
first. However, I always give people the context of we're also limited to how fast that CPU and GPU is going to be utilizing that software. And so how fast that software can really write to the drive. So
Right.
I have my comment section is really busy with that. Like, well, I've got this, but you know, I'm doing these like benchmarks, and I'm only getting this read or write. But then you really
Oh
have to
yeah.
go into, does that limit your actual write to the drive when you're like in Final Cut Pro or some audio program, or even gaming, or putting a virtual machine on it? I mean,
I guess
but
the one
that's going to
thing
be tested heavily.
one thing we're not gonna see is what happened with the iPad, right? Because the iPad was, Thunderbolt on the iPad was brand new. It was never there before. So when the first couple of months, I was like, oh my gosh, really? Is this it? Because I'm getting USB speeds here. But of course, with
Right.
the updates, then we saw much better performance now, almost close to what it should be. But yeah, I don't think we'll see that issue with the M1X, right? It's going to be fast from day one. As obviously, limitation by the software, but it shouldn't
Right.
be it shouldn't be
I
as
just want to
bad
know if
with yeah.
Apple can do this on their own, because when you have such a low watt chip, it is hard. Like you can demand that
Mm,
throughput, and I showed those in the test with those hubs, but you
yeah,
know, right out of the gates, so they're using, and I've said this several times too, they're using an Intel retimer for
right.
Thunderbolt, so it sits at the port to help amplify and smooth out that signal. Yeah, everything. What did you just say? A lot of math being. We won't throw a lot of math in. I'm just saying that Apple relied on Intel to help with that Thunderbolt speed, even though we were still getting subpar speeds. So I'm curious, in these devices, will there be enough power just to push it anyway? And will Apple
Mm.
still have to rely on that retimer or that repeater or amplifier to help push that signal out?
There was lots of words, and I
Yeah,
think I understood every
what
single
Kevin
one of
said.
them.
They're cute.
What he
They're
said.
adorable. These MacBooks are
I
going to be
agree.
they're going to look so great. I'm just going to go for a run again.
But I'm sure people they're not all like me. They actually understand what you're saying.
So are you guys excited
Right.
about anything else actually? Because we've been talking about the M1X MacBook. There's other stuff that's going to be presented. Are you
Yeah.
excited about anything else?
I'm hoping for
AirPods.
another Ted Lasso
Yeah.
season, you know, like even beyond like the third season. Like that, maybe that's
Oh
what, maybe
yeah.
Jason Sudeikis will come out on the stage, and I don't know, maybe Apple's going to buy like a football club.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'll apply for a coaching role there. Yeah, no, that'd be cool. I think the AirPods
Yeah.
3 is something that I'm not gonna buy, I don't think, but I'm hoping that they bring the kind of softer ear tips that don't hurt your ears after, after 5 minutes, because they've been going, those normal AirPods just, I don't know, for me anyway, that they're pretty useless. And I know earbuds are subjective, right? Because they're going to be different for each person, but yeah, I'm hoping it's more ergonomic in a way that it doesn't fall out, and yeah, and it's actually worth the money as well from a quality point of view. It looks like they're going that way, right? Because it looks from renders like the expensive one. So
Yeah. I'm curious about that as well. I know we didn't even mention AirPods, and so I think that will kind of be welcome. I know that in my household there are a couple of AirPods that are just sort of slowly dying. I mean, they're used. I use them every day for meetings, calls. I run with them, so they do get a lot of use. And mine are still holding up just fine. My kids have some. My wife has hers as well. So I could see this maybe as a welcome addition. However, the AirPods themselves, like just not the Pro version, like the tips have never been in like I just prefer like the regular AirPods, although I know a lot of people like to be able. I'm trying to keep it PG-13 here, folks. The tips are more comfortable for other people. So
Yeah.
and that's totally fine.
yeah, I think that's the main thing that annoys me about that one, and especially when I don't know, when they first came out, it was like 150, I think it was 150 pounds. Yeah, it wasn't worth that much. Especially when they
No,
it keep falling out, and they're not very comfortable.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
never
But I think
actually.
if you're using them, no, go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying, yeah, I've never used. I mean, I've tried them obviously, but I've never bought them and used them myself. I've always used these little Jabras because they just
Mm.
once they get into my ear, they're like stuck in there, and that's what I need when I go running, which is pretty much the only time I use those. And for any other situation, I'll have my over ear Sony's,
Yeah,
so
the
I'm not really that
pros,
interested
I can
in
see
AirPods.
why. Whenever I talk to someone and they said I'm on my earbuds, I can tell they're on the Apple Pro ones, because the the call quality on that is really amazing. Um, but yeah, I don't, the normal ones for me, yeah, they're too basic. They're probably worth really less than 100. When you look at the competition, you look at things like
Mm.
Yeah.
Jab, kind of
And you can get
other
deals
brands
on
that are
them.
there for less than $100. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you can always find like holiday deals on those things for sure.
Mm.
But I think, yeah, if you're using it often, then it's a worthwhile investment. So,
Yeah.
and I think it also entrenches you even more into the ecosystem, because it was just the other day. I use my Apple Watch when I run, and I have the cellular version with it so I can stream, whether music or podcasts. But the fact that you can also use that as a remote. So like if I'm in my studio doing some work and then flipping over to say, oh, I want to play. And you had said this on Twitter, Alex, about was it like lo-fi girl.
Oh yeah.
I stream that music just like when I'm in a zone, and
Mm.
just to go up on my Apple Watch and pull up, Mac Mini, get on Spotify and hit play, and I can play it through my speakers, my monitors,
Mm.
and it you start getting used to those types of sort of touch points throughout the day, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I've got these AirPods in, I'm not using my iPhone, but now I'm on the iPad, I'm on a Zoom call, it switches automatically to the iPad. And I understand that you can certainly have workarounds. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm technically savvy enough to do that, but it is so, and I know you hate the word friction, and I'm sorry I said it, but there is very few limitations as far as like the hurdles to get over, the obstacles to get
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Totally. And I think if you've got the kind of HomePod stuff as well, that seamless kind of transition between them, and how they, even Siri responds from the right one. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that ecosystem, right? Even if it's just a pair of earbuds, they do come with that additional, yeah, that added value that many others can't compete with, right? So they'll have
Mm.
to they do innovate in other areas. I mean, competition will have apps that you can control, you know, the EQs and stuff. But yeah, with some, I think Saran was actually here before with us. He raised a good point on those. He said, if you, and I think Kevin, you just mentioned about deals as well. If you had a choice of getting the pros, you know, why wouldn't you go for that? You know, for a cheaper price than the new ones. So yeah, I think that's also a consideration to take into account. Don't get the new ones just because they're new, because you might get a deal that means you get the pros, which are better quality.
Yeah, we measure everything by the Apple Store, but there are so many third-party sellers out there that are really reputable and good, and will run. I mean,
Yeah.
even when these M1Xs come out, like just like the M1s, like we'll start to see those price drops. We assume it'll just be a matter of when we can get them. I mean, and that's the thing. So here's the thing. A community member over, I just got a text or whatever, or a comment. We kind of go back and forth as far as on in the comment section and saying that the Apple Store down right now? Because I'm wondering if we are going to get pre-orders today. I've already sort of worked with my wallet and everything.
I
Apple
just
Wallet
heard
kind of getting
Did you
something.
guys hear that? I think that was
What?
Something's crying. I think it's my wallet. It's just crying.
I heard screaming in the background, but I didn't want to say anything. I was wondering about that. So is your wallet going to scream today, or are we going to get Friday?
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
It's the dad jokes are starting. That's how you know it's time.
Yes.
It's 4 minutes.
It's T-minus 3.5 minutes.
Yeah. Shall we call it a day here, guys, and say thank you to everybody for joining us in this, a bit of a silly chat, but I like to do things unscripted. I think you guys enjoyed as well, not to have a script, but just chat and nerd out on this stuff, as Patrick says. I certainly enjoyed it, so I hope you enjoyed it too. And let's see what Apple brings. Guys, any final words from you? And any plugs as well for your channels, of course?
I'm just praying for everybody's wallets today or sometime this week. That's it. I'm my heart's bleeding for those wallets for you. It's where we are. That's all I have to say.
Brilliant. Patrick?
Great. No, I just enjoyed the super high energy today, and this was mega hype.
That's right.
I'm very happy that Kevin was here to give us the facts, and that we could just talk about how shiny the new MacBooks
would have derailed very quickly if Kevin wasn't here. I think we would have been talking about
that notch?
Something completely different.
Yeah. So it's not going to look as pretty. I'm not sure about that.
That's
right. How's that notch going to be?
Right. This is going to be awkward. I have to go over there to turn the stream off, so don't mind.
We're going to watch.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank everybody. Everybody, thank you so much for showing up.